But ultimately, it gets back to this. I think they look at the depth of their coaching staff. This is a different coaching staff than they had last season when they had Jason Kidd on staff, who obviously went on to become the head coach in Dallas. David Fizdale's been a head coach twice. He was the acting head coach when Frank Vogel was out with COVID. But all of a sudden, let's say hypothetically you move David Fizdale up. Now you look at the staff and you go, is this a staff that we're positive it's going to be better than what we have with Frank Vogel? I think they want to give Frank Vogel every chance here. I think last night was an important game for him. What any coach with a struggling team has to avoid is what happened in Denver the other night when you lose by 37, when your team's non-competitive, and then the questions become, has he lost the locker room? Well, that was an emphatic no last night, how they played against the Jazz. You know, they're going to get Anthony Davis back here, but I think this is an organization, I think, that wants to continue with Frank Vogel, but there's certainly a lot of pressure always in that seat with the head coach of the Lakers. No one's going to survive losing for very long, but I think right now Frank Vogel, I think he's got the opportunity to certainly hang in there until they get AD back and then really see what this team is.
Well, there's two sides to this coin, though, right? Because it's what the staff can do, and then it's the roster. So as you're looking at this roster, Legs, as it's currently constructed, what needs to change for them?
Yeah, Matt and I were talking about this earlier. I mean, you're talking about a veteran group that honestly has very little interest in the regular season. And the problem with the Lakers is if you think you're going to flick that switch once you get AD back, the weather gets warmer, you smell April 15th around the corner when the playoffs start, and you think you can just solve all your problems, then they're mistaken, because you're not going to come, I don't think, out of the Western Conference playing on the road in every single round, which is what they're really facing right now. Having said all of that, though, Woj hit it on the head. Listen, talent makes up for a lot of mistakes. And when you add a guy that's a multidimensional game changer on both ends of the floor like Anthony Davis, and you get a number of games under their belt with LeBron, with Westbrook,
right,
Carmelo back, when we can finally really see what is the ceiling of this team, we'll have a better idea. Right now, like a lot of teams in this league, they're missing a really key guy, and it's hard to evaluate exactly what they're going to be. Also, the age of their roster, I think the second half of the year is what these guys are built for. So let's get AD back, get some games under the belt, and then we can really judge what the Lakers are, because right now, they're not a contender in the Western Conference. We got to see what it looks like with AD.
Well, the trade deadline is looming, and as long as Adrian Wojnarowski is on this panel, I have to ask, is there anything brewing right now for the Lakers?
Listen, the Lakers tried. They tried to get involved with Cam Reddish. You know, the Knicks had a better asset for them. I think the Lakers are in a tough spot to do anything other than just kind of move the furniture around. To think that they've got the assets to do something to get dramatically better. Listen, Taylor Horton-Tucker, a good young player. Listen, he's probably better than what they can get for Taylor Horton-Tucker. Kendrick Nunn is yet to play this season. They put him in some trade discussions. But this is a team, listen, Miles Turner, who's a player in Indiana, he's out with a stress reaction in his foot. I'm told he will be out past the trade deadline in February, which makes trade talks more difficult for Indiana to get max value back for him. I think for the most part, the Lakers' improvement is going to have to come from within. They just don't have tradable assets, especially with so few sellers in the market. There are going to be other teams who can offer those select few sellers better offers than the Lakers will be able to.
So that improved. LeBron James and the Lakers, they were hosting the Jazz across the street, Tim Legler. It was an interesting matchup here. I want to pick it up, though. Let's go to the second quarter because the Lakers are up 4 here. LeBron James brings the ball up the floor, stops, pops. You know it's good, Tim Legler.
You got to live with that if you're the Jazz. What are you going to do? LeBron would walk up 3. That's the shot you want him to take, but he was feeling it.
But are you going to live with this? We need to see that again and again and again because he just took flight there.
That's going to be a nightmare for Rudy Gobert for a while. And I'm happy for Russ. Russ has taken so much heat this season, man. I'm happy. Even he got a tech. He didn't care. We didn't care. Beautiful to see.
That's a tech that you eat. So the Lakers were up 6 at the halftime, but then early in the fourth, they're down 9 here. LeBron James all the way to the hoop.
LeBron has been working a lot smarter instead of harder. I love these small back cuts, working from the pinch post and posting up on the block, and it's really got this team going.
Well, and then you have Stanley Johnson hitting Avery Bradley for the corner 3. So the Lakers role players, they were really stepping up in this game. I know we just showed a Stanley Johnson pass, but he had 10 of his 15 points in the fourth, and then this was just icing on the cake. And Russ Westbrook, he's going to let the fans and his team know it. Here's LeBron James after the game.
When you sent out that tweet making that promise, what did you say to the team, or what did you have in mind to say to the team?
I didn't say anything to the team. It's my accountability, holding accountability for myself and my teammates. I didn't say anything to the guys. It's, talk can be cheap at times. You just got to go out and have action. We all understood that our effort and energy wasn't where it needed to be. In the Denver game, in the second half of the Memphis game, and then whatever the other game we lost, but we weren't giving maximum effort. So, that starts with me as a leader of the team, and just taking the onus, letting Laker Nation know it wasn't about anybody. It was about our fans and the people that ride and die for the Lakers every single day. Let them know that I got this and it wouldn't happen again.
Lakers had given up over 128 points per game during their 3-game losing streak, which was the worst in the league, but allowed just 95 points to the Jazz last night. That's the fewest points they've allowed in over a month. So the Lakers, they got the win, but Tim, you weren't necessarily convinced that things have turned around here. What did you see from the Lakers?
Yeah, listen, much needed win, but let's keep it in perspective. I think that was the worst I saw Utah play all year. I mean, they had 4 threes, they didn't shoot the ball well, and then they had key breakdowns at the wrong time. And look, if you're going to get contributions out of your role players at the right time, Lakers got it last night. Stanley Johnson was huge in the fourth quarter. And I just want to talk about, this is a critical possession. I think the biggest possession of the game, just to give people an idea, an anatomy of a play. And how does it happen that you get this sort of breakdown here at the end by the part of the Utah Jazz? Now, first, take a look right here. Now, this is LeBron James. And you want to know what it's like to be a superstar in the NBA? This is what it looks like in late game possessions, all right? You got 4 guys loaded up on this side of the lane ready to give help. LeBron sort of sees that. It is right now a 1-possession game. It's 92-89, 2.5 minutes to go. So he decides he's just going to take the jump shot. As this ball goes up, here's what happens. Rudy Gobert is taught to just go get it. So he's watching the flight of the basketball. The problem is, so is Royce O'Neal. And when he does that, he does not get what he needs to, which is a chip right here on Stanley Johnson. If he gets a chip, Rudy Gobert gets the ball, the Jazz come down with a chance to potentially tie the game. It doesn't happen. So what happens instead, take a look at the free run that Stanley Johnson gets to this basketball. And now, Matt knows this, offensive rebounds, you've now got chaos on your hands. So when this ball gets kicked out to the corner, Utah, once again, they're looking at LeBron, and take a look at where everybody's eyes are. Rudy Gobert obviously providing help at the edge of the lane, but everybody else on the floor is doing the same thing, and the key is this. Donovan Mitchell is watching the action here. He's keeping his eyes on this part of the lane, and when you get a flash by Stanley Johnson right to the middle, the problem is Donovan Mitchell reacts to that, and now you're going to get Avery Bradley float to the corner. So when that offensive rebound took place, you see Royce O'Neal's in no man's land. No one's really guarding anybody except for on the ball. And as a result, you get this flash. Mitchell reacts to it. You've got 4 guys in the lane, and now you get this simple float to the corner by Avery Bradley. Great job by Stanley Johnson finding him, hits him in rhythm, hits him in the cradle. Huge shot. So now, when you've got Russell Westbrook, you've got LeBron James, how nice it is and a luxury to get role players help determine the game. And Stanley, they don't win the game without what Stanley Johnson did in the fourth quarter of this game. And Avery Bradley obviously stepping up with the 3, gives the Lakers a much-needed win. But let's not think overnight they turned into the bad boys Pistons defensively.
But, Matt, you chose them as your team of the night, if you will. So do you agree with that assessment from Legs?
Agreed. One game is not going to switch any kind of mentality or anything. It has to be something they consistently build on. First of all, they need to sign Stanley Johnson for the season. He's one of the young, hungry guys that they just don't have it. They have an older team. This team all knows they're built for the playoffs. So obviously, not saying that they're on cruise control, but they kind of are. But not understanding these new guys. LA is a daily conversation for the Lakers. You know what I mean? So if you're at 500 at this point of the season, you're going to be talked about. But I know this team is gearing up and ramping up towards the playoffs. But they have to understand there is some importance during the regular season. We're waiting for AD to get healthy. We're waiting for their chemistry of their big 3 to get on. But again, this team is built for the playoffs. So I think as long as they're healthy, they're going to have a chance still.
Well, you mentioned the magic words, healthy, and Anthony Davis, our Dave McMenamin, reported that hopefully on this road trip that they're going on, that's when the Lakers are targeting for him to finally make his return. And the Lakers, they face Indiana tomorrow night, but then they go on their longest road trip of the season. It's 6 games away from home. It takes them through Orlando, Miami, Brooklyn, Philly, Charlotte,